Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday to you. I'm really so excited to be around with you today and excited to be here for another new week. First of all, if you can hear me and can see my screen, please type in a hi in the comment section, please, so that we are on the same page. If you can hear me clearly and you can see my screen, type in a hi in the comment section so that I can confirm we're on the same page. Great. Hey, Carrie, good morning. How are you? Hello, house. Please, I want to see some response, please. Can you kindly type in hi in the comment section if you can see my screen and you can hear me clearly? Oh, glad to hear that, Carrie. It's a great day for me too. I had a wonderful weekend. Hey, hi, Juketsu. Trust you had a wonderful weekend. Okay, newbie from Nepal. Glad to have you around with us. Oh, thanks for the confirmation, Moise. Yeah, hello, good morning, Moise. Are we excited to be here this morning? Okay, so let's begin the day. And first of all, I would like to state that it's likely going to be a very, very busy and volatile week for us, as we have one of the major events coming up this week, and that's a non-farm payroll coming up on Friday. And definitely, most participants in the market will be looking forward to this event. And if we look closely at what's happening on the economic calendar too, as well, we have this harmonized index of consumer prices, which is coming up later on today. And yet tomorrow is packed with high volatility releases. We have one in China, Swiss franc tomorrow too as well, then Euro, CAD, and then on Wednesday we have the AUD gross domestic product. We also have the USD ISM manufacturing PMI, which is also a very high priority release. Then the Bank of Canada too will be making an interest rate decision on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we're going to be seeing trade balance on the AUD. And then on Friday, we have the major one, the non-farm payroll. And it's very, very pertinent that I state here that the activities for this week will be very, very volatile, and it will be appropriate that we try as much as possible to find and identify patterns that will favor us in anticipation of this release. So, with no much further ado, I would like us to dive into the chart right now and let's see what is happening and what does the market have for us this new week. So the first chart we are going to dive into is the UK oil, as this is a fallout of last week's position, and last time I checked on the UkOil, we already took profit on UkOil as priced it's our TP target at $120 during the early hours of today. So that's the positive. We're starting the week on a positive note, and if you are taking advantage of that UkOil, kudos to you, and by now you should be smiling to the banks. So that is that on UkOil, and since we already have our position, we're already out of our position at take profit. Now we want to be looking at what should be our expectation going into the new week on the UkOil. So if we look closely on what's happening on the chart, should we? Okay, let me delete everything and let us start on a fresh new page. So on the UkOil, going to the daily time frame, it is observed that we're actually on a bullish momentum, which has been holding since December last year, and we have a bullish trend line to confirm this. Um, as we have price respecting the trend line since November last year. As we can see, price continue to find higher highs and higher lows since last year. So what we want to be looking out for is how to take advantage of any potential opportunity going forward. So if we zoom into what has been happening since the beginning of the year, we notice that we have the supply zone, which we identified last week as well. We have a supply zone around this area, which has finally been broken. We had a supply zone around here, which has been holding since March and was finally broken during the course of last week trading session. So allow me to label this. We have our supply zone around here. So with the supply zone around here, now we see that price has broken out of the supply zone during the course of last week trading session. We had that breakout of structure. And then what we want to be looking forward to is a retest of structure to take advantage of any bullish continuation on this one. That is, we want to be looking forward to price retesting the structure, after which we look for structures that support a trend continuation to the upside. However, there is also a possibility that price might want to come back down into the bullish trend line that we've identified here on the daily time frame, after which a possible uptrend continuation pattern can actually form off that bullish trend line. So let's scale down to a much lower time frame. Let us see what is happening right now on the chart. So moving down to a much lower time frame, we have our supply zone around here. The last thing we can see here is this. We see that we had that impulse leg right from that supply zone into 120 area, and price has been doing what looks more like a consolidation phase around this area at this point, and that is in the last 9 to 10 hours we've been seeing price oscillating around that 120 area. So at that point, we don't know what is going to happen. Are we going to be having a reversal, that is, price probably move further down, after which we want to be seeing situation that supports a trend continuation to the upside? So to get more insight into what is happening right now, let us scale down to a much more lower time frame, let's say the 15 minutes time frame, to see what is happening around this area. Aha, very good. We have something clear enough here. And on the 15 minutes time frame, we can see that price has rejected the 120.5 area the second time. And if we know our structures very well, and this looks more like a double top structure, which emphasizes a reversal pattern, might be what we're seeing at this point in time. So with a reversal pattern like this, we really need to have a neckline that will guide our action going into the New York session. So if we look left, we can see that we have a structure around this area that can serve as our neckline. And I think that would be around 119.60 thereabouts, I guess. So we have a key level here, which is also the neckline. And why is it our neckline? We saw that as price went as far into the 120 area, we saw price rejected this area multiple times before we saw price come back up, then again rejected it again, giving us a clue into the buying opportunity that lies around the 119.60. However, the reversal, um, the double rejection of the 120 area is giving me a sign that we might be going bearish anytime soon. So one thing we want to be looking out for, a signal that will do in the form of a breakdown of that neckline, after which we look for a retest of structure, and then we look for structures or patterns that support a trend continuation to the downside. So for me personally, what we are going to be looking out for now is if price is going to break down that key level that we've identified here, and then if we see a breakdown of that key level, then a retest of structure should be enough to do a confirmation in that regard. So where do we want our entry point to be at this point? After confirmation, we want our entry points to be around here. That's around 119.50, 59 area, where we will have a situation that looks more like this. We have our selling position right around this area, with stop loss right above previous structure with around 50 pips. Then where will our take profit target be? So let's go back to the 2 hours time frame and see what structure has been given us since last week. And if we look closely, we can see that this is an impulse leg. From this area, we have an impulse leg here. And remember, after every impulse leg, definitely we want to see a retracement into our golden zone area. And so what is our golden zone area? Golden zone area is a retracement into between 50 and 78.6% of the last impulse leg. So if we bring out our Fibonacci retracement tool and run it through that impulse leg, then we will be having our take profit target around this area going forward. So we will have something like this, and so let's label this area TP target, which would also be an area for buying opportunity going forward. And if you look closely into what is happening, if you look closely into the structure of that TP target, you will notice that this area is the previous supply level, which has been holding for some time before we saw the breakout of that structure during the course of last week's trading session. So now we're expecting price to come back down into that supply area, and then we should be having a position that looks more like this. So let us just use this area as our take profit target in the meantime. But that's with around 250 pips. So $117 is okay for us in the meantime, and let us see what happens afterwards. So that is our expectation going into the New York session on the UkOil. So we are expecting price to break down that structure. Let me come again on this one for the sake of clarity. Like I said we are waiting for price to break down of this key level, the neckline, after which we look for a retest of structure, and we look for the retest of structure shall be our confirmation, And this confirmation, we can scale down to a much lower time frame like the 15 minutes, 10 minutes, or 5 minutes time frame to look out for patterns that support a trend continuation to the downside. So if I were you, I will get prepared in this regard. So I don't know if there are any questions or you need further clarifications in this regard. Okay. In the absence of none, let's move on to US oil. At the moment, US oil is in profit, and we are in profit of about how many pips now? We're in profit of about now 470 pips thereabout. And at this point, the first thing I'll be saying right here now is that we should be moving our stop loss to somewhere around here, right above the structure here. That is $115, which is which dovetails to about 450 pips profit on this one. So now that we have our stop loss right at 115 area, what should be our expectation if price hit our stop loss going into the New York session? Well, personally, if we look at the structure since mid-May, we saw this bearish trend line that held price action for some time before we saw the breakout of that structure during the course of last week's trading session. We saw the breakout of that structure around $111. Now, the breakout has happened. We had a significant breakout of that structure, and we might be possibly looking forward to a retest of that key level at 111.50, or probably price come back into this bearish trend line, after which we look for structure that supports a trend continuation to the upside. So how do we take advantage of any selling momentum if it finally happens at this point? Let's look at what's happening on the daily time frame, on the 4 hours time frame rather. Okay, we have the structure. So like I said, we are waiting for price to come back down into this, to retest this area for us to take advantage of that bullish continuation. However, we could take advantage of a counter trend at this area, as we saw price continue to find lower highs since it tested $116.40. So since price tested $116.40, we saw that price has been finding lower lows and lower highs, like this. As you can see with the visual representation of the arrow I'm drawing on the screen, we can see that price has continued to find lower lows and lower highs at this point. So in that regard, this gives me a clue into a possible selling momentum evolving right behind the scenes. And at the same time, this area looks more like a reversal pattern for me going into the New York session. So the first thing we want to be doing at this point is to identify a key level, which will also serve as a neckline of that reversal pattern that we are looking forward to. Now we have a key level around here, and then we want to be seeing a breakdown, a significant breakdown of that key level. Then we'll see a retest into structure, after which we look for patterns that support a trend continuation to the downside. So if I were you at this point, we want to be looking for opportunities right below the neckline to take advantage of any selling momentum going into the New York session. So if we have this kind of scenario, then we want to be looking forward to a sell position that looks more like this. So personally, since we said we are going to be looking at $111.50 as our take profit target, then we will be having around 400 pips as a potential profit However, considering the short-term perspective we are looking at for now, at least for the next 2 to 3 days, we could be aiming at this area. If we look left, we can see that we have a demand structure around this area that we can use as our guide for a take profit target. So personally, you can use this area as the first take profit target, that is 113.50 as our first take profit target, which is around how many pips? That is around 200 pips approximately. So this is my expectation on US oil, and let's keep our fingers crossed and see how price action plays out as we await the opening of the New York session. So that's that on the US oil. So we're moving forward. We have fresh new pairs that we want to be looking forward to this week. And I have a couple of pairs on the Japanese yen as well, because I saw patterns that looks more similar amongst these pairs that supports a bearish tone for the Japanese yen going into this new week. So the first of all, let us talk about what my expectations are on the Euro CHF. So on the Euro CHF here, on the Euro CHF here, let's look at Euro CHF and hold on a second, please. So on the Euro CHF, what I was looking out for, if you look at what's happening on the daily time frame, let's start from the daily time frame. The first thing we will observe is that price has been trending to the upside since the beginning of March. Despite the fact that we are on a long-term bearish momentum, as you can see, the trend line connecting the series of lower highs since March last year, we can see that price has been respecting this trend line over a year now. However, after price broke down into 1.021 area, we saw that price continue to find a higher low, which later culminated in the breakout of the ski level during a couple of weeks ago, and price came back down to test this bullish trend line. So let us zoom in into what has been happening in the last 10 days. In the last 10 days, we saw how price came down from 1.05 area, a very strong psychological level, and as soon as price got into 1.2350, we saw multiple rejection of this area. And also in that area, we saw that price was caught in a consolidation phase which later confirms the indecision that has gripped the market since the mid-May. And what we want to be looking out for is a breakout at any point to give us a signal in whatever direction it wants to choose. So there is a possibility that price could come back, break down the bullish trend line, do a retest to send price crashing further down, and at the same time there is a possibility that price could break above this key level, retest structure, and price continue to the upside. So now going into the new week, how do we want to take advantage of this move? So the first thing I did was to identify a key level that we use as our guide going into the new week. So the key level I identified was around 1.03400. And why is it at 1.03400? If we look left, we can see that this area has at one point in time had support and resistance level matched at one point. So look at, we have a support around this area, we have support around this area, we had a support here, and we had another support here before the breakdown happened. And after the breakdown happened, we saw a resistance here, resistance here, resistance here, and a support here, and a resistance here as well. So you will agree with me that this level has been very, very significant, as it has a major role in price action, as soon as price action comes into that area, it either pushes price up or it pushes price down. And if we have a breakdown or breakup, price tends to move in that direction. So because of this observation now, we want to be looking forward to, for the bullish momentum, we want to be looking forward to a breakout of structure, a retest of structure to join a potential bullish momentum, and probably price could go as far as testing that bearish trend line we identify here on the daily time frame, after which we could be looking for structures that supports a trend continuation to the downside. So now let's scale down to a much lower time frame to see how price has been playing out, and then use that opportunity to take advantage to make a decision on this trade. So now we have, like we said, we had price juxtaposing within this area. We saw price juxtaposing. We had a supply zone. We had demand, supply, demand, supply, and demand. Now, because we were in a demand zone, the first thing I did was to place a pending order right at this area at 1.02868, which is already triggered already, and with a stop loss right below previous low, which is around 60 pips. And then I'm actually using this one to test waters and see how what's going to happen. And fortunately, price has moved in our direction. However, it has not yet confirmed that we want to be going bullish in the new week. The only confirmation will happen after which we see a breakout of that key level at this area, a retest of structure. Then we can now look for patterns that support a trend continuation to join the rally. So what we want to be doing at this point is this. We want to be having an entry point right above this key level, right above this key level. That is after we have a breakout and retest of structure. So what does that simply mean? We would have a position that looks more like this. We have a position right here. We have an entry point right here at 1.03440. And then we have our stop loss right below structure at around 35. And if you like, you can make it 40. Then we'll have our take profit targets remaining at 1.06500. And that's around 300 pips profit target on this one. So that is the first scenario I was having here on the EURCHF. The other scenario I was looking at is a possibility that price could break down this bullish trend line, after which we see a retest into structure, or probably price could go as far as rejecting the key level, after which we see patterns that support a trend continuation to the downside. So if we have that breakdown of that bullish trend line, then definitely we want to be looking for confirmation in the form of a retest of structure to join the decline to the downside. So if that happens, we want to be having our sell entry point at 1.02871, after which we are looking at a take profit target at 1.00370, which is around 250 pips profit. And why is our take profit around this area? If we look left, we can see that we have a demand structure around this area that buyers actually use to take advantage of that bullish momentum we saw earlier. So that is why I'm having my take profit target around this area. So I do hope you understand what I've explained so far on the EURCHF. Do we have any questions in that regard? Okay. In the absence of none, let's move forward. Now, moving forward to GBPJPY. On the GBPJPY, let's go on to the daily time frame to see what is happening on the daily time frame. So on the daily time frame, it is obvious that we have been on a bullish momentum in the last 2 years on this one. And if we look closely into what has been happening since the beginning of the year, we saw that we had a bearish trend line around this area. Sorry, let's hide this so that we can see clearly what I'm talking about. We had a bearish trend line around this area, which was later broken mid-March. We saw the breakout of structure around here mid-March, and we saw that bullish move that took price from 1.150 Japanese yen into 168.500 Japanese yen, after which we saw a retracement phase that gripped the market, and we saw a quick rejection of that bearish trend line that was broken early in the month, and we saw bullish momentum where price continued to find higher lows at this point. So with the evolution of a higher low at this point, I will scale down to a lower time frame where we identify that bullish trend line that will be our guide going into the new week. So with a bullish trend line drawn around this area, we want to be using this bullish trend line as a guide going into the new week. In addition to the bullish trend line, we want to have a key level also that will guide our actions going forward. Now, if we look at what happened after that impulse leg, you saw that impulse leg that moved from here. We saw that impulse leg. We saw a reversal pattern of that impulse leg that looks more like an head and shoulder pattern. Then we saw a breakdown of the neckline, a retest into structure, and technically we should be expecting a bearish momentum going forward. However, market does not happen like that all the time, as there are some times market do otherwise, and it takes a sensitive eye to notice such patterns. So in this regard, we have two scenarios initially that was playing out. I was hoping to see on this one. The first one is we had a key level here, which was broken around here, and market did a retest back into that key level. But one thing that made this one different is that bullish trend line we saw here. So one thing I'm saying I'm going to be doing is this: if we have a breakdown of that bullish trend line, then definitely we want to continue bearish, as we'll be waiting for a rejection, a retest of structure, where we will be looking forward to an opportunity or a pattern that supports a trend continuation to the downside. However, if that does not happen and we continue to see price oscillate right above that neckline, then definitely we want to take advantage of that bullish momentum. So in that regard, I placed a pending order right at 160.160 area, and the trade has already been triggered already, and I've already moved my stop loss to break even at this point because of the bearish momentum that was identified on the daily time frame. So we'll be having our stop loss right around this area at around 60 pips. That's around 159.600 area. And for those who have not yet in this trade, what I'll be suggesting at this point is that we should hold on and see if price is going to come back into structure, after which we could look for structures that support a trend continuation to the upside. So for the sake of clarity, let's scroll down to the 15 minutes time frame where we can actually identify an area to take advantage of a bullish momentum if price comes back into structure. So bringing out my line chart at this point and then connecting the last supply level, we have something like this. And this is what we have right now. we have something like this. So let's pull this out up a little bit. Now let's go back to the 1 hour time frame. Tommy BMW, we'll be looking at the USDCAD. Just hold on. Later on, we'll be looking at USDCAD. So now that we've identified that structure, so what I'll be suggesting at this point is that we keep our nerves and wait for price to come back down into the structure, after which we look for structure, we look for patterns that support a trend continuation to the upside. And what do I mean by patterns? Patterns, I mean like reversal patterns. It could be an inverse head and shoulder pattern, something like this. This could be an inverse head and shoulder, something like this. After which we look for breakout of structure retest, then we join the rally to the upside. Or it could be a double bottom structure and something that looks more like this, a breakout of structure, then you join the rally to the upside. And then it could be a 1 2 3 reversal pattern, or it could be a rising wedge, something that looks more rising wedge, where we now see a breakout of structure, a retest, then we join the bullish momentum. So this is what I will be looking out for on this one, since price has continued to go to the upside. So we hold on for price, come here, then we take advantage of that bullish momentum. So at this point, I would hold on this one. And then the other scenario that I was talking about is that if we see price breakdown of this bullish trend line, then we want to be looking for a retest of this key level to join the decline to the downside. So if we see a breakout, then we should get prepared for selling opportunity on this one. But I doubt if that's going to happen anytime soon, considering the structure we're having right now. So that is that on the GBPJPY. And let's move on to AUDJPY, the Aussie Japanese yen. Also, I also have my position triggered on the Aussie Japanese yen too as well. And if we look at structures right now, we have something that looks more like a triangle. We had a key level at 91 Japanese yen, and the key level has been holding price for some time. You can see price has been respecting that key level in the past. We saw it has been a support level here, a support level here, support, resistant, 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 and resistant around here. So this is a very significant key level, and with a bearish trend line after connecting the series of lower highs at this point, we have a bearish trend line, and also we have a bullish trend line around here too as well. So going into the New York session, we have three parameters that will guide our activities going forward. The first one is the bearish trend line, the red line you see on your screen, and then the second one is the bullish trend line, the one you can see on your screen with a blue dotted line, and then the key level right at 91 Japanese yen. So you can see how the three structures, the three parameters, share a confluence around this area. So one thing we want to be looking out for looking out for going into the New York session is that we want to be seeing a breakout of structure and a retest into structure. Then we look for patterns that support a trend continuation to the upside. So with that scenario now, we already have a breakout of structure at this point. We have two bullish engulfing candles already. And if I were you, at this point, if you are not taking advantage of that move, then we want to be patient enough to wait for a retest to happen, after which you could join the potential rally. So we want to be seeing price come back down into either the key level, the bearish trend line, or the bullish trend line. Then we look for structures that support a trend continuation to the upside. Please let me state here that patience is very, very required in trading. We really need to be very, very patient and look out for confirmations that will support your buyers. So at this point, I will advise that we remain very, very patient and we wait for confirmation to evolve, and then we'll play along whatever happens afterwards. So let's hold on this one and wait for price action to come back to structure. Then we could take advantage of that bullish momentum. So our stop loss is going to be around this area right below the key level at around 50 pips, and we have a take profit target. In fact, we have a huge take profit target at around 98.5, which is around 700 pips take profit target. And why is our take profit that far? The reason why that is far is this: if we go to the daily time frame, the first thing we observed was we had this impulse leg. And if we project this impulse leg into the future, price retraced back into 618 area, then we project the impulse leg into the future. If we use our Fibonacci extension tool, definitely we will have something like this, and with the aim at 127.2% extension, then we have price around this area. So that is why my take profit targets around that area. However, for you that you are taking advantage just for the meantime, a day trader thereabout, then we want to reduce our take profit target to probably somewhere around here, at least for the meantime. If we look left, we can see that we have structures around here that has one time been a supply zone for participants in the market. So we could actually use that as our first take profit target, and that is around how many pips that is. We have that's around 250 pips thereabout. So at this point, I would like to pause on this one, and let's keep our fingers crossed and watch how price plays out during the New York session. Then we can know how to take advantage of whatever structure that lines up for us. So moving on to the USDJPY. So on the USDJPY, hold on a second, please. On the USDJPY, I'm also having I had two scenarios on the USDJPY where I was looking for a breakout of structure, that is a breakout of structure here, where I'll be looking for a retest to buy the dollar, or wait for a breakdown of this bullish trend line, a retest into the bearish trend line to take advantage of a bearish momentum. However, since the beginning of the UK session, we have seen like 3 bullish engulfing candles, giving us a sign that the dollar is probably going to be a very strong currency against the yen going into the new week. And if we look closely into what has been happening since May, beginning of the month, we can see that price has been caught within a descending channel, as price continued to respect that descending channel, not until around on the 19th of May, where we started seeing a reduction in the bearish expansion, as the expansion continued to reduce going into last week trading session, as we can see. So the traction that the sellers began the month with reduced drastically. If you allow me, let me give you a visual representation of what I'm talking about. If you look at what happened here, we saw this move to the downside. We saw how huge that was, and then if you compare it with what we have here, you can see that it's not the same, as the expansion was short, like half of what we had earlier. And if you bring it further to this one, you can see it becomes smaller and smaller. So this is a clue that sellers are actually losing the momentum in the market, hereby giving way for buyers to take advantage of that shortcoming. So what I'm looking out for, I'm looking forward to, is a further breakout of that supply zone to add one more position to it. After we see a retest of structure, then we can add one more position to this trade. The first trade is already triggered. Then I'm waiting for one more position to add to this trade at a retest of structure. So where will our take profit target be? If we look left, we can see we have an area that has been holding price for some time. We can see since April, we saw this area has been a resistant level, a supply zone. It has been a demand zone, then a supply zone in the past. So that is why I am bringing our take profit target to around 129 Japanese yen, which is around 180 pips approximately for this one. So personally, let's look at how price action plays out going into the New York session. However, there is a possibility that price might not come back as far down as this before the trend continuation happens. So what are you going to do in that regard? So this is our supply zone here. It has been a supply zone in the past. So if this supply zone finally breaks, we see price break out of that supply zone, definitely we want to be looking for a retest into that area. Then we look for patterns that supports a trend continuation to the upside. So that means if you are taking a trade right above this area, we'll be having around 150 pips, 140 pips thereabout to take advantage of. So and your stop loss should be right below this key level or right above this key level at 127 Japanese yen. So this is what I'll be looking out for. This is what I'll be looking out for the GBP for the USDJPY. Shockwave, we spoke about GBPJPY a couple of minutes ago. What I would just suggest is that you hold on while I do the summary. I do the quick recap. You can actually see what we talked about on the GBPJPY. So that is that on the USDJPY. And let's just see what we can look out for again going into the New York session. Okay, let's look at Euro. Or should we? You're welcome, Shockwave. Let's look at Euro New Zealand. On the Euro New Zealand, I'm expecting a bearish momentum on the Euro New Zealand, and this is what I'm looking out for going into the new week on the Euro New Zealand. I have two scenarios where I'm looking to take advantage of a selling momentum. However, it appears that the first scenario is not holding, as I was expecting price to break down this neckline at 1.64 area, after which I look for a retest of structure to join the decline to the downside. But since the beginning of the new week, we saw that price appears to be finding higher highs at this point. So what I'll be doing at this point is to hold on a little bit and see how price plays out. And if we have a retest of this bearish trend line, the red line you see here, or probably price goes as far as testing the key level at 1.660, then I will be looking for patterns that supports a trend continuation to the downside. So if that pattern forms at that point, then I want to be having my entry point right around this area at 1.65298 with a take profit target at 1.59990, and that's around like 500 pips thereabout on this one. Let's keep our fingers crossed on this one, and I think it's going to take like a day or two for this formation to manifest itself. So I will suggest we just keep our fingers crossed here and let's watch how price action plays out during the New York session. So that is that on the Euro New Zealand. Someone was saying that I should talk about the USDCAD. I'm not sure if we have, I think I looked at the USDCAD earlier today. Let me see. Let us look at it together again. Let's look at it together again and see what's happening. On the USDCAD, we've been on a bearish momentum for quite a while now. At least since the beginning of the month, we've been on a bearish momentum. And currently on the 4 hours time frame, I can't find a structure to play around with. And personally, I normally take long-term positions. I always prefer finding structures on a higher time frame, after which I look for entry points on lower time frame. However, if you are a scalper, let's see if I can find structures on the 15 minutes time frame that we can take advantage of going into the New York session. So one thing I identified here on the USD is that price opened today at 1.27277, and we as at an hour ago, price was around here. So we can see here that price has continued to find lower lows and lower highs since the beginning of today. and this has been emphasized during the course of last week's trading session. As we can see, our price has continued to find lower lows and lower highs at this point. So if how are you and you want to take advantage of any position here, you want to be looking for selling opportunities at this point. So one thing for us we want to be doing is to find a key level that will guide our action going forward. So if we bring out our line chart at this point, then we could identify that we have a key level right around here where we want to be looking for price right below that key level to take advantage of a selling momentum. See what I'm talking about? So one thing we want to be looking out for, we already have this impulse leg right now. We saw multiple rejection of this area. Then I want to join a sell right now. I want to join a sell right now. If price breaks below this level around here, sorry, let me bring out my line chart for the to be more specific. Okay, somewhere around here. So we have a short position that looks more like this. With a stop loss right above key level, that's around 12 pips, 12 pips stop loss. And then where will our take profit target be? So if we look left, we see that we have an impulse leg here, and then if we run our Fibonacci extension tool through that impulse leg, we have something like this. Then I want to be looking at I see these around 20 pips thereabouts. Let's go to a higher time frame. Let's see what's happening. Let's see if we can play around with structures here. On the higher time frame, we don't really have much. We're still around. Sincerely, I'm not seeing a position. I'm not seeing anything here. So what I will just say is this: go back to your 15 minutes time frame. Look at what is happening. If you really want to take advantage of, please, if I were you, I'll wait for price to come back up a little bit so that I can scoop in more profits. So I'll rather wait for price to come back into this area where I look for structures that support a trend continuation to the down to 1.26630 area. And so we have something like this. Probably price come back to somewhere around this area, and then we see, yeah, price come back to somewhere around here with a stop loss of around 7 pips. Then we could be aiming at around 25 pips take profit target at 1.26630. So that is my expectation on this one. However, after that being said, if we do have a breakout of structure, that is, we have a breakout of the bearish trend line and also that key level, then definitely we want to be looking for a retest of structure, after which we look for patterns that support a trend continuation to the upside. So if that happens, then definitely we want to have our entry point right above that, sorry, we want to be having an entry point right above that key level where we'll have stop loss right below below the structure, or right below the key level. Then take profits could be somewhere at let's go left, see what's happening. So we have this impulse leg, from here. Hold on a second, what is happening? Okay, we have this impulse leg here. Then we want to be looking at a retracement of that impulse leg. We want to be looking at a retracement into the golden zone area, which is around 78.6 and 50% of the previous impulse leg. So we have it around this area. So what we want to be looking out for is price coming into somewhere around here if a buy opportunity happens. So we have a minimum of about 60 pips to hold on to latch on to if price goes up. I hope I had made justice to your USDCAD. Who asked after USDCAD the other time? Okay, Ghost Rider. I just made justice to your USDCAD now, and let's see how price plays out during the New York session. So let us add this to the list we'll be looking out for tomorrow. So I think we're already out of time. Let me quickly do a quick recap of what we talked about today. So the first pair we talked about today was the UK oil, and after which I made mention that we already take profit target on the UK oil already. And with the prayer structure we see here, with something that looks more like a double top structure at around 120 area, we saw multiple rejection of that area. I said we should be looking forward to a breakdown of this neckline as a signal, a bearish signal. Then we look for a retest of structure to join a potential rally to the downside. So we have our take profit target at $117 and with a stop loss of around 50 pips thereabouts on this one. So this is what we'll be looking out for in the UK oil. So moving on, we talked about the US oil, where we saw that price has been oscillating around 116.5 area, after which we saw something that looks more like a reversal pattern. So because of this development, I said we should move our our stop loss, because we are still running, this trade is still running. So I advise that we move our stop loss to $115, after which if we see price break out of this structure here, then we look for a retest to add more positions to this. So for our buy opportunity, our take profit target still remain at $120. However, I stated that considering the reversal pattern we identified here, we already have what looks more like a breakdown of that reversal pattern here, and then we see this retest into structure. So we'll need to go down to the lower time frame, let's say the 5 minutes or 10 minutes time frame, to look for reversal patterns that supports a trend continuation to the downside. So if we have our confirmation sealed, then we want to be having an entry right below that key level. So I gave an example that we could have at $115.60 with a take profit target at around $111.40. However, I said that because of the structure we have around this area, we have a demand structure around this area, there is a possibility that if price comes back down into this area, we could have a reversal pattern that could set price going further up. So I suggested that we move our take profit target, the first TP, to $113.50 on the US oil. So moving on, we talked about the EURCHF, where I told you how the trade is already executed, and then that we are looking forward to a breakout of structure in the form of a breakout of this key level are at 1.03440, and we're looking for a retest of structure to join the uh the the uptrend continuation. So this is our setup on the EURCHF. Let's hope this work out as expected. And I also said that if price does not come thus far, does not come does not come down, come that far, then we want to be seeing a breakout of that supply zone. Then price will come back into that supply zone. Then we look for structures that support a trend continuation to the upside. Our take profit targets still remain at 1.06500, which shares a confluence with the bearish trend line we identified on the daily time frame. So that's that on the EURCHF. Then we talked about the GBPJPY, where we started seeing bullish momentum evolving already on the GBPCHF. I'm already in this trade and it's running in profit already. And personally, I've moved my stop loss to break even on this one. However, I also advise that we could still have opportunity to take advantage of this move, as we expect price to do a retest of this area at 1.160.500 area, after we should look for patterns that support a trend continuation to the upside. So we have a take profit target at around 175, which is around 1,000, over 1,000 pips. So for the sake of a short-term perspective, let's also look at around this area, because if we look left, we can see that price at one time at around 164 area was a supply zone in the past. So let's aim at that for the meantime, and that's around how many pips that is. Let's see, that's around 300 pips minimum on this one. So that's that on the GBPJPY. So we moved on to AUDJPY, where we also saw that bullish momentum happening on the AUDJPY. So what I'm expecting is price to do a retest into structure, then we could add one more position to this trade. Our take profit targets, like I said, let's adjust it to 93.5, which is around how many pips that is. That's around 200 minimum, and that is that on the AUDJPY. Then we talked about USDJPY just recently, and Euro New Zealand. I said I'm expecting a bearish momentum on Euro New Zealand, where I'm expecting price to come into this bearish trend line or this key level, after which we look for structures that supports a trend continuation to the downside. Take profit target remains at 1.59990, which is around minimum of 500 pips on the Euro New Zealand. So this is my perspective. So this is my perspective on the Euro New Zealand, and let's see what happens as time goes by. Thank you for being around, and hopefully by tomorrow we should have cause to be happy. Thank you for being around, and on this note, I wish you best of luck and a wonderful